Hi, welcome to another IELTS video. In this video, we are looking at 9 words that can help to enhance the academic tone of both your speaking and writing. If you find this video helpful, join us at the forum IELTSnetwork.com. And for more videos like this one, visit my blog at IELTS.com. Before we get started, I want to state that there is no such thing as strict, quote-unquote, Band 9 vocabulary. However, IELTS test takers that score speaking Band 9 and writing Band 9 are capable of demonstrating accurate use of academic language. And accurate use of words similar to the following 9 words we are going to look at can help show your examiner that you are versed in a variety of English. So in this video, I'm hoping that you will see the way that these words are used. I'm going to show you exactly how you can use them in your IELTS speaking and exactly how you can use them in your IELTS writing. And I hope that you will put them into practice. So if we get to the words themselves, now I'm going to give you the academic word, and then I'm going to demonstrate specifically how you can use that word in both the IELTS speaking and in the IELTS writing. So the first word we are looking at is the word precursor. And if precursor is a new word for you, if you need a bit of review, it's here it's a noun, and it describes something that comes before something else, or that sort of grows into or becomes something else, or leads to something else. So in your speaking, if it's very common for the examiner to ask you about your career or about your studies in part 1 of the exam, so you might use precursor in a way like this. My interest in geography was the precursor to my studies in cartography. And all we're saying here is that you know, we had natural interest in this area, and this is what led us to studying this area. So it's a word that just kind of shows the logical progression of something. Okay. Now please note the use of an article here, because that's important, because if you drop that, then you will lose a bit of that nice polished edge to your speaking. In your writing, you can also use precursor. So for example, if you recall, there was a question maybe a year or two ago that asked about whether education was more important than experience when it comes to career and career growth, or whether it was the other way around. I believe it was a do you agree or disagree. So in your writing, you might use precursor something like this. Thus, this example makes it clear that a university education acts as a precursor to career growth. And all we're saying is that university education would be something of a foundation for career growth. It comes before, it is a needed step for career growth. Okay, please note again that we have stuck in an article here. Okay, so that's the word precursor. Now let's look at the word catalyze. Here, catalyze is a verb, and it is a verb that is used to show something that causes another thing to begin, or causes another thing to change. And sometimes in the speaking, again in part 1, you're going to have to talk about your career. And so I suggest using the word catalyze in this way. The people I meet at business networking evenings in my city often catalyze professional opportunities. Okay, so all we're saying here is that when we go out to these networking evenings, that the contacts that we make at these networking evenings can start or can lead to professional chances and an interaction with people that can help us down the road. in your writing, if you recall, there was a question about school uniforms and whether they are a healthy choice for schools or not. And you can use catalyze in this way. Now, this would be the topic sentence to one of the supporting paragraphs. So firstly, uniforms catalyze better classroom behavior among students. Okay, it's just an academic way of saying sort of lead to or connect to or cause. Okay, so that's the verb catalyze. And I'll just put the noun here too if you're interested. It's catalyst. So, and typically the phrase would go something like acts as a catalyst. Okay, so uniforms act as a catalyst for better classroom behavior among students. Okay, word number 3 is linear. And linear is a word that we can use to describe something that moves along a straight path or is in a straight direction. So again, in part 1 of the speaking, you might be asked about what your plans are for the future. And linear is a good word to use if you are anticipating that your plans are not going to change much. So for example, my plans for the future are fairly linear. And when you say this one sentence, then the examiner knows that your meaning is that your plans are kind of in a straight, direct line. You're on a course at the moment, and you're going to continue that course. So I'm completing my undergraduate degree now, and intend to follow this with a master's. Education is, therefore, in my foreseeable future. So all you're saying is that I am educating myself now. I am planning to continue to educate myself in the future. So my plans for the future are linear. Now, obviously, this is a good word to use if you're taking the academic exam, because in writing task 1, when you're talking about trends, you might be presented a trend that exists in a straight line, or perhaps part of the overall trend exists in a straight line, and you can use linear here as well. So the trend depicted between the months of February and June shows linear growth from 20 to 75 XYZ. So there is linear growth. The growth occurs in a straight, predictable pattern. For task 2, okay, there was a question that was seen on the exam, and it was regarding whether education predetermines success. So if you have a solid education, whether this is more likely to give you a successful future. So we can use linear in this way. The progression from an educated background to a high level of business success is often linear. And this could be the topic sentence of a supporting paragraph. If you were sharing an example and from that example drawing a conclusion, you might want to stick on something like this. Thus, the progression from an educated background to a high level of business success is often linear. This would be, the conclusion. So I hope that clarifies how you could use linear to talk about things that are moving in a direction, things that are happening now and continuing to happen. The next word is a word that I regularly use in my videos. It's correlate. Correlate is used to talk about things that have a relationship or move in a similar direction. And here it's a verb. You can also use it as a noun. The noun is correlation, which I'll type real quickly for you here. For speaking, if you're talking about your family and there's some pattern to the things that you're doing compared to your siblings or the things that your parents do in comparison to somebody else, you might want to use a phrase like this. So actually, the career progression of my sister positively correlates with mine. After she left her hometown, she also experienced a significant growth in employment opportunities. So when we are talking, the subject of your sister comes up, and then the examiner might ask you something like, tell me about your sister, what does she do? And then you could follow that with this. If her growth as a professional individual is similar to yours, you could use a phrase like this. For the writing section, if we have, I should have put in here, this is task 1 for academic. So 2 trends that are moving in opposite directions, we can use the phrase negatively correlated. The rise in automobile prices in 2008 is negatively correlated with automobile sales for the same year. So we're saying that the prices were going up while automobile sales went down. Next word, avenues. You're probably familiar with the noun avenue, which is sort of another word for road. But here we are talking about avenue in the sense that it is a path for something. And often in English, people can use the word avenue to talk about a path for information. So if we were to be talking about communication, so in part 2 of the speaking exam, you're given a cue card, and recently a student reported that they saw the cue card describe a significant person in your life. And this could be a place where you would use a word like avenue. So for example, my father encouraged me to study languages, and this has opened up certain avenues for friendship I would not have otherwise had. For example, I have several close Japanese-speaking friends. Okay, and when you use a phrase like opened up certain avenues, you're basically just saying it gave me the chance. It's sort of a nice academic way of saying that because I study languages, I was able to create this channel in my life that gave me new and fresh opportunities. Now we can also use the word avenue in the writing section. So for example, if we were talking about avenues for opportunity, firstly, studying a foreign language opens avenues for employment, for instance. Now there was a question recently that read something like students should study foreign languages from a young age or whatever. I mean, this could be a fitting supporting idea for an essay like that, and you can see how we would use the word avenues to just to give it a bit of an academic tone. Word number 6 is afford. And afford has a few different definitions. One of them is, of course, to have enough money to buy something. That's not what we're looking at here, though. Afford here means to supply an option or to supply an opportunity. So to give an opportunity to something or someone. Now, in the speaking section, maybe the examiner asks you, why are you choosing to study abroad? Or why have you been studying abroad? And you might reply with something like this: my university grades afforded me the opportunity to study abroad. Now, of course, we could change this to gave me the opportunity to study abroad, but this is a perfect example of a situation where we can use academic language to demonstrate to the examiner that we're more fitting of a band 8 score than a band 6. In the writing, you might receive a question that asks you to suggest ways that humanity can combat the problem of poverty in the world, and you might use the word afford in this way. So for example, the Chinese economic system has afforded the PRC, the People's Republic of China, unprecedented financial growth over the past 3 decades. Okay, and all we're saying here is that because of this economic system, the People's Republic of China has undergone significant financial growth. Actionable. Actionable is an interesting word. Actionable is an adjective. It's a word that describes something that is able to be acted upon. So in the speaking section of the exam, again, if you were talking about an influential person, so if this is your monologue and your cue card says describe somebody in your life that has had a great influence upon you, you might use the word actionable in this way. My university professor gave me several actionable pieces of advice, but most noteworthy was his suggestion that I focus my studies on North African history, as I was both interested in it and am of Tunisian ancestry. Okay, so you can see here now all we're saying is that this influential person in your life, this university professor, gave you some advice that you could do something with, that you could act upon. So we use the word actionable. In the writing, if we receive the task 2 question stating that solid education can lead to future career success, can lead to future business success, we might use the word actionable in this way. So this would be the supporting paragraph, the beginning of it. Firstly, the actionable nature of the skills learned at university is clear. Now that's the claim we're making. We're making that, so skills that are learned at university can be put into action. We're using the word actionable to describe this progression. For instance, humanities programs like philosophy, English literature, and history push students to exhibit logical progression in their thinking and writing. Okay, that's the example. As these organized thought patterns are often the basis of success in business, it is clear that a link exists between the skills learned at university and the ability one has to accomplish a professional goal. Now, I just read out the next couple of sentences just to show how the beginning sentence, using this word actionable, how it would sort of fit into the entire progression of the essay. Our next word is embody. Embody is a way to describe something that provides tangible example of an idea. So in your speaking, you might be talking about your parents and about their characters and about perhaps what they do and these sorts of things. And this would be a great place to use the word embody. So my father is an embodiment, the noun version of embody, of a traditional military upbringing. He does everything by routine. Or in writing, this would be perhaps the topic sentence to one of the supporting paragraphs. Firstly, technology in the classroom has undeniable links to academic performance. The use of tablets in Korean classrooms embodies this idea perfectly. So now please note that the way that it's being used here. So in the topic sentence, we are making a claim, which is just an idea. Firstly, technology in the classroom has undeniable links to academic performance. Okay, this is just a general idea. Now we're tying this idea to something tangible in the real world. We're talking about tablets in Korean classrooms. Okay, so because we're taking this first idea and then we're tying it and showing it directly in true to life language and a true to life example, we use the word embody. Now let's continue to the last word, fortify. Fortify is a verb. It means to make something stronger, and there are several different areas in your speaking and writing that you can use this in the IELTS. You might use fortify in this way. I'm taking courses in the evening after work to fortify my professional skills. So all we mean here is that perhaps I'm already a professional, I'm already strong in certain areas, but I want to strengthen even more. And fortify is a good word to use to describe this. So something that already has a foundation in something, but is being strengthened even further. For the writing, the word fortify can help to qualify the strength of an example. So here we have the final sentence of an essay, or the discussion sentence of an essay. Thus, the fact that successful attempts are being made by other developing countries to replicate China's growth fortifies the argument that the Chinese economic model is one that accelerates the elimination of poverty in undeveloped nations. Let's just take the first part here. Thus, the fact that successful attempts are being made by other developing countries to replicate China's growth. That's the first half of the sentence. So, other countries are using China's pattern and experiencing positive results. Now, because that's happening, this fortifies, this strengthens the argument that the Chinese economic model is one that accelerates the elimination of poverty in undeveloped nations. All we're saying is that we're arguing that the Chinese economic model is a strong one and should be replicated in other parts of the world, and this first part fortifies this position. Okay, so I hope that I didn't move too quickly through those words, but I know many of you are already familiar with these words. You just maybe want to have a look at how you can actually apply them to your IELTS. Please try your best to use these words over the coming week, and maybe even consider writing your own sentences with these words in the comment section of this YouTube video. That could be a great exercise. We could start some conversation about the words. I hope that video helps you enhance the academic tone of your speaking and writing. Thank you for listening and have a nice afternoon.